Hi student, good morning. Today we are going to discuss the third topic of IGCSE, that is movement of molecules inside and outside the cell. Okay, so now come to the slides show. See here, firstly we have to discuss here about the diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion, is the movement of molecules. Okay, movement of a molecule from high concentration to the lower concentration. This is the first definition. And second definition is that movement of molecule in all directions. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, diffusion is the net movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of the low concentration down the concentration gradient as a result of their random movement. The energy for diffusion comes from the kinetic energy of the molecules. Now see, solutes and gases such as carbon dioxide gas and oxygen are able to diffuse in and out of the cells across the cell membrane. This is important as these substances are crucial to metabolic reactions which occur within the cell, for example, respiration and photosynthesis. Without them, the process would not occur and the cell would die. Okay, because this process is very crucial. This process is very important for plant as well as for the animal life. In plant, the photosynthesis take place. In photosynthesis, there is exchange of gases like oxygen enters in the cells of plant, okay, and CO2 comes out during the respiration. And the opposite of respiration, photosynthesis, in which CO2 enters into the plant cells and oxygen is released. So this is photosynthesis, and in respiration and photosynthesis, both the movement of gases take place through the diffusion. And also, like this diffusion take place in the animal cells, okay, because the if the molecules of water high concentration outside, so they enters into the cells, okay, and if there is a high concentration of water molecule inside the animal cells, so it comes out. Now come to the next one. See which factors affecting the rate of diffusion. So see the surface area, as the surface area increases, the rate of diffusion also increases. This is because there is more space available for substances to diffuse through. Another factor, is temperature. As the temperature increases, the rate of diffusion increases. This is because the molecules gain kinetic energy and thus move faster. And the third factor, concentration gradient. As the concentration gradient increases, the rate of diffusion increases. And the last factor, diffusion distance. A greater diffusion distance slows down the rate of diffusion as the molecule must travel further. So these are, these are the particular factors of diffusion, that which factors are responsible to increase and decrease the rate of diffusion. Now osmosis. See, like there is a misconception sometime between the osmosis and diffusion, and students think that, like the diffusion take place only in the gases, and osmosis take place in the liquid. It's not true, basically. Because diffusion take place in gases as well as in the liquid. Okay, what is the main difference between the diffusion and osmosis? In osmosis, the membrane is required. Okay, means the molecule just passes through the membrane. Okay, but in diffusion there is no any sort of membrane. Okay, for example, if the water enters into the cells, okay, so it will just cross the semi-permeable membrane or the cell membrane. Okay, and if the water is coming out, okay, this is also the osmosis because it's crossing the membrane. But the similarity is that in both, the molecules move from high concentration to the lower concentration, because both are the type of passive transport. Passive transport, is the type of transport in which molecule move from high concentration to the lower concentration without using energy. Means energy is not required here. Okay, so as you can see in the diagram, that how, like the molecules of water are moving from high concentration to the lower concentration. And the same type of things take place in the tissue fluid. The liquid outside the cells, The plant are supported by the pressure of water inside the cells, pressing outwards on the cell wall. Now another thing you can see here, this is, you can see, this is like, the cells, okay, and you can see that water enters into the cells, okay, due to which the cell become turgid. And it happens in the plant cell, because in plant cell, there is a cell wall that prevents the cell from bursting. But if the same thing happened in the animal cell, you can see here, when water enters into the cell, so as the animal cell has no cell wall, so it bursts, okay. It takes some water, it swell in size, after that it bursts. Why? Because there is no cell wall. And in plant cell, in plant cell, when the water exits from the cell, okay, so this plant cell become flaccid, okay. But in animal cell, when the water comes out from the cell, okay, so it becomes shrink, okay, you can see here. So here, if the plant cell, you can see here in the plant cell, if the water, exit from the cell, okay, so it is plasmolized, it is plasmolized, okay. And the animal cell is shriveled, or shrink, size reduced. Okay, now the importance of osmosis. The plant gain water through the osmosis in their roots from the soil. Okay, without a water potential gradient, water will be lost from the roots. Plant cells contain vacuoles which, if not full with water, will cause the cells to become flaccid. If all the cells in the leaf become flaccid, the whole leaf will become flaccid, hence causing the plants to wilt. Plant cells therefore need water to remain turgid and keep them firm. You know that if the plant cell, takes water, okay, so it become rigid, it become turgid, okay, and it become firm, okay, due to which, its shape is to be maintained, okay. But when the plant cells, just lose water, okay, so they become like, flaccid. As you know that the guard cells, when in the daytime, when guard cells takes too much water, so they become turgid. And due to the turgidity, the stomata, which is the opening in the plant, okay, and guarded by the two guard cells, it opens, okay. And in the dark time, what happens, the guard cell loses water, okay, and these guard cells, become shrink, and due to which, the stomata close. Now see, if an animal cell surrounded with a high water potential, osmosis will take place, and if the water is not expelled some way or another, the cell will burst. A process called hemolysis in red blood cells. This is because an animal cell doesn't have a cell wall to keep it strong. If the animal cell is surrounded with a low water potential, the water in the cytoplasm will diffuse outwards, causing the cell to shrink, okay. Shrink means like urinated, okay. So animal cell, when lose water, of course it shrink, okay. But when it takes too much water, okay, first it's turgid, after that, like, it's going to burst. Why? Because there is no cell wall. Now active transport. See, like, the difference between the passive and active transport, as we already discussed passive transport, that passive transport is the transport in which molecule move from high concentration to lower concentration. But in active transport, molecule move from lower concentration to the higher concentration. In passive transport, energy is not required for the movement of the molecules, but in active transport, the energy is required, okay, for the movement of the molecule, because these molecules are moving from lower concentration to higher concentration. Now the question arises, from where the energy comes. The energy comes from the process of respiration, because respiration, in respiration, the nutrient broken down, energy is obtained, and this energy is utilized in active transport, okay. So especially, like, if the plant, are taking up the minerals, okay, it is because of the active transport. In the same, the absorption of glucose in the small intestine is also because of the active transport. Now also, there are some special type of protein which we call the carrier protein. Carrier proteins, the facilitated active transport. Okay, they facilitate active transport. They are embedded in the cell membrane and allow passage through it. Molecules from the side with lower concentration bind to the carrier protein. The carrier protein then changes shape using energy from respiration. This forces the molecules to move through the membrane to the side with a high concentration where it is released. Now, example of active transport, as already we have discussed that uptake of iron by root hair cells. Okay, mean root hair cells, they take up minerals. Okay, especially the nitrates, which is very important for the production of amino acid and protein in plant. Also, plant take up the magnesium. Okay, that is responsible to make chlorophyll, due to which plant looks green. Another, uptake of glucose. Glucose is taken up in the small intestine and kidney tubules. Glucose move against the concentration gradient through the carrier protein. Now see here, carrier protein. Again, you can see here there is the structure of the cell membrane. Okay, and these carrier protein, facilitate to just take the protein, okay, inside the cell. So substance combined with the carrier protein molecule, you can see in the diagram, carrier transport substances across the membrane using energy from the respiration. Substances released into the cells. So here you can see also the tabular form. Okay, see diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. What is the difference? See, down a concentration gradient. Okay, this is diffusion and osmosis, because in both, there is one similarity, that molecules move from high concentration to lower concentration. But in active transport, here you see cross means that there is a movement of molecule from lower concentration to higher concentration. Another, against a concentration gradient. See, against a concentration gradient means there should be cross in diffusion and osmosis, but it is strict, is active transport. Energy needed, yes. In which process the energy is needed? Energy is needed only in active transport. Okay, energy is not required for diffusion and osmosis. Why? Because in both, molecules are moving from high concentration to the lower concentration, and substances move, dissolve solutes. Okay, in diffusion, dissolve solute is there, and osmosis, water is there, and active transport, dissolve solute. Okay, notes, gases and dissolves gases also diffuse in diffusion process, but in osmosis, partially permeable membrane needed. In active transport, the carrier protein is required. So this is the comparative study of diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. Okay, so now this is the end of this chapter, end of this topic. Okay, if you have any question, you can ask me. Okay, my email address is there, my WhatsApp number is there. Okay, also you can give some comments on the YouTube channel, and also it is available on the TikTok. So if you have any difficulty understanding anything, okay, or if you need anything, okay, you can contact me through WhatsApp number, email address, or YouTube channel, or the TikTok. Okay, okay, thank you very much.